Alright, in this demonstration I want to talk to you about a couple things. One is I want you to understand the difference between your localhost server and the class server that's up in the cloud. And also I want to show you how you can get your files from your local computer up to the remote server. Okay, so first of all, let me explain your localhost. So you should have already installed MAMP or XAMPP or one of those things. If you plan on actually doing your testing files on your own computer. So first of all, your local computer is just like your personal PC or Mac, and that's where your MAMP or XAMPP installation is, and your thing is going to be viewable, your website's going to be viewable at localhost, so it's http://localhost in your browser. Now, only you see this set of files. Nobody else in the world can see it except for maybe, if somebody in your household on your small network were to know exactly what your IP address was within the house or the apartment complex, and they navigated to it, you could tell them how to get there from. But for the most part, nobody else in the world is going to see that set of files. Okay, the class server is different because it's up in the cloud, and the world sees that set of files because it has a bona fide domain registry, hosting, etc. Okay, so the way that you're going to get people to see your stuff outside of your own home would be to take the files that you've done for your testing and practice on your local computer and transfer them through FTP up to the main class server. And the address for that, if you want to go look at it in a browser, is http://student000, for instance, .leekottner.com. It's going to be whatever the number is that you're assigned for your course. Okay, and so here's sort of like a recap of what I was saying. So on the left is your localhost computer, and then for the world to see it, you need to transfer your files over via FTP. That goes to say, if you're having problems and you need help with your files because you're having error messages or something like that, if you send me an email or post something on a discussion board and you say, help me, I don't know what's wrong, but I can't look at your files, then I can't help you. So before you even bother to ask for help, you should transfer the files that you're working on up to the web server. Otherwise, I really can't help you. And especially that's true in this class because, I can't help you because even if I were to look, just at HTML files, I can't actually see the script if it's not being parsed properly. So, anyway, go ahead and transfer your stuff up. I will have access to that server so that I can actually get into the server and look at the source files. But, for instance, like if you have your own domain, and sometimes students will have their own domain and they just put stuff up on their domain and they say, okay, go look at it on the web. I don't have access to your FTP account. I cannot get the files and look at the source code. That's really important that I can see the source code because remember, all I'll be able to see are either error messages or I'll be able to see the HTML that's being output. I won't actually be able to see the PHP. So make sure you put it on our server if you need help. Please don't send me the files via email. Okay, now transferring your files from your local computer to the remote class server, you can use FileZilla or CyberDuck or Fugu or any of those kinds of applications. Some people probably have WinSFTP, that kind of stuff. If you have Dreamweaver, you can use Dreamweaver, but the settings are going to be slightly fussier, but you can use Dreamweaver. I like FileZilla a lot. I don't have problems with it. Sometimes CyberDuck, even though it's a really nice user interface, sometimes I find that I end up with problems because it's not the greatest FTP software, but a lot of people really like it because the interface is so user-friendly. FileZilla is sort of an old school kind of FTP interface, but it's pretty reliable. I don't have problems with it ever. So the host address, okay, even though the remote server domain name is leekottner.com, The trick with this is that you're going to be typing in an IP address for the host. I won't go into why, but it's something about the way that my hosting is set up. Okay, it's so that it can be faster or something. Anyway, you're going to use the username that you've been provided. So this is something to note that's a little bit potentially confusing if you're not paying attention. The username for FTP is called PHP student and then the number. Whenever you go and you look at your directory online, it's going to just say student and then the number. I had to assign the username of PHP student number because just the plain old word student was already taken. Okay, so just be aware that the URL that you're going to go to look at your website, let's say that it's the 000 student. When you type in the URL, it would be it'd be student00.leekotner.com, but the username for FTP's purposes is going to be phpstudent000. Alright, the password, get it from Blackboard. I'm not going to give it to you in a video. The port is port 21. If you've used SFTP on other servers, even if it's the, whatever class you're taking this with, whatever the institution is, if you've been accustomed to using SFTP, you'll know that that's port 22. Do not use port 22 for the server. It won't work. So it's port 21. Okay, so FileZilla, this is on the right, sort of an example transfer window. The way that it's set up, and you'll see in the live demo, is that on the left side, those are your files on your local computer, and on the right side, it's representing the remote servers computers, remote computers server files. And so you're going to drag the files that you want to take from your computer over to the server. And you can also get the stuff off the server or vice versa, like if you do something crazy, like you accidentally delete the files off your computer, but you know that you've got them on the server, you can drag them the other way. Okay, and then lastly, if you want to just double check this so that you really can kind of understand what you're looking at, you want to open two browser windows. In the first, like on the left, type in your localhost URL, so that's going to just be localhost. And on the second window on the right, type your remote student address. And so in this particular example on screen, it's student048.leekotner.com. So the student who would be assigned the 048 number on the left would be their localhost environment, and identically on the right, after transferring their files up, that's what they would see on the remote server. Okay, so be aware that those are two different servers in two different places. Alright, so don't make the mistake of thinking they're one and the same. You're making this basically a copy of the files from your computer up to the server. Okay, so you'd have to look at them in two different places. Okay, and something else too that you will have noticed whenever you go into FTP is that in FTP view you're going to see a hidden file that's sitting in the server, you should anyway, called .htaccess. It's a hidden file. Anything that starts with a dot is hidden. Do not delete that file. That file is the one that allows you to get directory listing, which you're seeing on the right here, where if you don't type in an index, if you don't have an index file, otherwise it would have to, you would have to type in the full address, including the file name and file extension. Otherwise you would get the forbidden sign. If you remove that htaccess file, that's what would happen. But with that htaccess file, it allows directory listing like what you see here in this example, where it will just give you a list of the directory's contents. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and pause here, and then in the next section we're going to move into showing you how to actually transfer your files in FileZilla.